Hello and welcome to the Two Man Booth, your weekly scheduled podcast on the crazy world of professional wrestling. With me, Jonathan.
And me, Adam. And we will start this week as we always do with the news. And the first thing we need to talk about is the fact that Adam Page versus Pac is off Double or Nothing, supposedly due to creative differences.
Yeah, I think the first thing people think about this is that Pac has refused to lose, which, although people have sort of been giving him a little bit of stick for this, I do understand, because he has been undefeated as Open the Dream Gate champion for Dragon Gate, and that's a massive thing for them and their promotion. Undoubtedly the number 2 promotion in Japan, whether you like Dragon Gate or not. I'm not a fan anymore. I used to be back when they were Toyamon, but he is a massive part of their building moving forward, and I do understand why he doesn't want to lose. I do get that. I do think it's a shame, because I think it was going to be a really big moment for Adam Page defeating Pac. I think we all thought that he was going to beat Pac anyway, but obviously these creative differences, shall we say, have prevented this huge moment for Adam Page from happening. Because I don't know about you, Adam, but I see him as being a top star pretty soon into AEW's run.
Yeah, I think they look at him as their next top star. In addition to the guys who are already stars, they're looking to make him to that top tier talent. And I'd imagine he'll be somewhere in the consideration for the first world champion.
Yeah, totally agreed. So this is a shame, but I very much do understand it from Pac's point of view.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And we've got some really good news that Ric Flair has underwent his heart procedure, and thankfully it is said to have been a success. Sadly, this does mean that he will not be able to attend StarCast, but really, really good news that things seem to have gone smoothly.
Yeah, obviously a shame regarding StarCast, and that will affect perhaps people going to that event. But at the same time, like let's not ignore the main issue that Rick is okay. Rick has gone through this procedure, and everything is absolutely fine. You know, Ric Flair is loved by absolutely everybody that knows about wrestling or is involved with wrestling. So all good news here, all good news.
And the final bit of news we've got to talk about is Sean Spears, who was formerly known as Ty Dillinger, has been announced for the Casino Battle Royale on the Double or Nothing pre-show.
Yeah, the perfect 10. I really like this. I'm surprised that he wasn't announced as part of All Elite earlier, to be honest. I think he'd be a great pickup for their mid-card. We've spoken about him before, and that I think that WWE massively dropped the ball with him. When I saw him in NXT, and when he first came up with the main roster, all he did was he just screamed out mid-card babyface for life to me. That, you know, that X-Pac, that Kofi Kingston role where you're in the mid-card for such a long time and you just consistently deliver, and your promos are good and your matches are decent, and I just saw him as that, and I really think they've missed out, but to be fair, they miss out with most of the people that they bring up now. So, not a shock. Big, well, not big, but a certainly important move for AEW.
Very true, and with that we will move on to Money in the Bank. We opened with a graphic for the late Ashley Mazzaro, and then we opened the show proper with the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. And it was a good way to start, as these women gave their all to put on a show for the crowd. Nikki Cross played Terry Funk's helicopter early, Carmella sold her leg and got taken to the back. Bayley then found herself alone and started to climb a ladder, but Natty and Mandy pulled her down and crushed her in the ladder. Bayley, for some reason, then rolled on top of a ladder, close to the corner, allowing Naomi to then hit a split-legged moonsault onto her on the ladder. Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose climb either side of the ladder, leading to a spot where Dana is hanging from the briefcase and swinging side to side. She eventually gets back on the ladder and Bayley pulls Mandy off the ladder. Bayley, Naomi and Dana end up near the top, but Nikki scales over people to the top, only for Natty to push the ladder over, and all four crashed and burned. Ember has climbed a ladder outside the ring and hits the Eclipse on Natty from the top of the ladder. Mandy hits the Implant Buster on Ember onto a ladder. She then realises this is now hers to win, but Carmella comes back out. For some reason, rather than climbing, Mandy goes out to meet her and gets taken out. Carmella tries to climb, but Sonya Deville attacks her. She hits a spear and then rolls Mandy back in. She puts Mandy on her shoulders and starts to climb the ladder, but Bayley climbs the other side and knocks them both off before retrieving the briefcase to win. This was a fun opener with a few whiffed spots here and there, but overall pretty decent, and the booking made sense. Not something that can be said for much of this show.
I really enjoyed this as an opening match. It wasn't like, it doesn't compare to some of the men's Money in the Bank matches, but if you compare it to the very first women's Money in the Bank match, it was like head and shoulders above that. I thought it was really good. There was, like you said, there was a few missteps here and there, but there was some really cool spots. Ember particularly hitting the Eclipse was awesome. The Dana Brooke part where Dana was hanging from the briefcase I thought was really good. I was very worried what was going to happen in that situation. But overall, I really liked it, and I think Bayley winning was the correct decision, and also I was very happy because that made me one up.
Well, I actually didn't, because the one match we haven't covered, because neither of us actually had time to watch the kickoff show, was that I went one up on the kickoff show because Daniel Bryan and Rowan lost to the Usos, who I had predicted to win.
In the non-title match that meant nothing.
Yes. So Sammy then interrupted Hunter's phone call backstage. He's looking for Shane, but Shane's focusing on his match. Sammy is worried about Braun, but Hunter reassures him that Braun has been banned for the building. Sammy has as little faith in that working as I do, and asks for some protection. If only he knew some acolytes that maybe had like an agency,
like an APA,
some kind of thing like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why anybody's never thought of that before, but Sammy could have really used somebody like that in this situation.
Damn.
Okay, Ron, calm down. And next up, we had the US title match between Samoa Joe and Rey Mysterio. Rey hit a seated senton, which clearly messed up Joe's nose, so he then kicked him flush in the face for good measure. Joe is clearly knocked a little loopy at this point, but takes back control only for Rey to reverse a powerbomb into a Hurricane Rana and then a pin for the win, despite the fact that Joe's left shoulder was up for all 3 seconds, which apparently was the plan. Wow, that was some stupid booking that made everybody look moronic.
It just looked awful, didn't it?
It's the opposite of what you want to do.
Like, the main thing about it for me was that as they showed the replay,
you can see the referee looking directly at it,
staring at the shoulder. So like, it just makes the referees look incompetent, and we've spoken about this before, how they keep making their officials look incompetent. Like, if you're going to make them look incompetent, just hire the NFL replacement refs.
I'm pretty sure the replacement refs were better than this.
Yeah?
I'm just going to say.
Yeah, it was awful. The match itself was fine. Like, not great, but fine.
It lasted all of 90 seconds. So.
But just ruined by a really, really stupid finish.
And I'm not being funny, screwy finish or not, which I can't believe screwy finish is the positive thing in this sentence I'm going to say, but screwy finish or not, Joe should not be losing in 90 seconds.
And it was only, the screwy finish was only called by the heel commentator.
Yeah.
Like, surely the baby faces should at least be sort of like...
Well, surely the heel shouldn't be getting screwed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Booking 101.
Yeah. So post-match, Dominic comes down to celebrate with his dad, but Joe destroys Rey instead as Dominic looks on. Shockingly, Braun actually is here and is wrecking the joint looking for Sammy.
How did he get in?
So surprised.
Like, how did he get in?
Well, it's like a very well-known fact of wrestling law.
If you are banned from the arena, you will get in.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the only way to guarantee you're actually on the show is to get yourself banned from the building.
It's the Austin special.
Yeah.
Maybe many of the undercard guys should do that. Like, do something deliberately that gets them banned.
Yeah.
And then they'll have to get in.
So next up, we had a steel cage match between The Miz and Shane McMahon. Wow.
A steel cage match is like the loosest possible way you could describe this match.
This was boring. Like, really boring.
Yeah.
Super boring.
And it felt like it went on for about 25 minutes. Anyway, ensue the recap of this 5-star classic.
In a rare, cool spot, actually, Shane got Miz in Argentine backbreaker position before transitioning into a neckbreaker for 2. He goes for course to course, but Miz catches him in midair as Shane's head makes a sick thudding noise on the floor. It was just disgusting.
That'll be like the 8,000th concussion of Shane's career.
Yeah. Miz poorly applies a figure 4. Shane drags them to the door and tries to escape, but Miz prevents that as Shane manages to bring a chair in. Miz hits loads of chair shots. Like, seriously, how long did he hit him with a chair for? It did feel like a good 4.5 minutes.
And they were quite, obviously, they weren't to the head, but they were quite hard. Like, I was surprised how hard Miz kept hitting Shane.
And then he hits Skull Crushing Finale on the chair, but it only gets 2 as Shane gets his foot on the ropes. They told us it was no rope break earlier, but whatever.
But what's interesting, and Brian Alvarez said this on The Observer, they didn't actually go but there are no rope breaks. They actually went, but there are no disqualifications. Like, that's what Cole called.
Is it?
There are no disqualifications in a steel cage. Disqualifications had nothing to do with it at all.
Classic Michael Cole.
Like, genuinely, like, because
I'm surprised he said Bulldog.
like, genuinely, vintage. Genuinely, why are there no rope breaks in a steel cage match?
Well, I've always thought this, that
Like, why?
in certain matches, in my sort of rule book in my head of what I think wrestling should be, stuff like a steel cage, like getting your foot on the rope should break the pinfall, because technically it's not part of the ring. Like in a no disqualification match, you still can't pin somebody outside the ring. That only happens in false count anywhere matches.
Yeah.
So even in a steel cage match, I think if Shane gets his foot on the ropes, they should stop counting. So I think they did that right. But it's the fact that they said no rope breaks literally about 90 seconds earlier.
Yeah. Like, I do get the idea of something along the lines of, like, maybe if you're in a submission hold and you get to the ropes, even if you submit, you don't lose.
Yeah, exactly.
But maybe the guy who's applying the hold is under no obligation to release the hold because there are no DQs.
Yeah, so
like,
there's
that
no
would
point
make
in doing
sense.
five count because there's no DQs. Like
Yeah,
you say.
like that would then make sense.
But it was just the fact that I like things better my way, but if you're going to do it where actually rope breaks don't count in a steel cage,
apply it consistently.
You've just got to apply it consistently either way, whichever way you go, and they did not.
No. Consistency's a problem with this company, isn't it?
Yeah. So the crowd absolutely hated that spot and started chanting stuff we can't say on this podcast.
There was also audible AEW chants.
Oh, I didn't hear them.
Yeah, I didn't hear them
missed
either, but Brian Alvarez very clearly reported that there were audible AEW chants during this match.
Not what they'll have wanted. So they battle on the cage forever until Miz throws Shane back in for a nasty looking bump. Miz then hits an awful frog splash that he's lucky he didn't break his legs doing. And Shane locks on his awful inverted triangle thing, and then they end up battling on top of the cage again as Miz looks for a superplex. Shane slips down and out of his top to escape in an awful finish to a boring as hell match. By the way, also, this feud refuses to die, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is Matt Hardy. It's Matt Hardy, it will not die. The funny thing is, like, well, from what happened on Raw and SmackDown, it does appear to still not be dead. Like, why couldn't Miz just win this? I know they're thinking they'll be like, oh, we've got to keep Shane looking strong for when he faces Roman in Saudi Arabia. That's my Vince impression, by the way. But, like, generally, like, why? Like, losing to Miz would not suddenly harm Shane's already fairly low credibility so much that Roman couldn't face him. It's just, and can we just say about how stupid the finish made Miz look?
It made everybody involved look stupid.
Like, you lost because the guy fell out of his top.
Much like the Joe Ray match, much like a lot of what we've got to come, everybody came out of it looking worse than they did going in, which is exactly the opposite of what you are trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Well done.
And it just made Miz look like a dork. Stupid geeky baby faces. But they're back again.
We then got an advertisement saying that Mick Foley is going to reveal a new title on Raw, and we're recording this on a Wednesday, so Raw has already happened.
So we know what it is.
It's a 24/7 title, so we will review that properly when we do our regularly scheduled podcast later in the week.
Yeah, I think we do have slightly different opinions to what other like Dave Meltzer, for example, from The Observer, and Brian Alvarez. We have slightly different opinions to what they have, so we'll cover that in our later in the week podcast.
Yeah. So Sammy has been hung up Jay Briscoe style backstage, sort of the way Jay Briscoe was hung up during the Age of the Falls debut. No dripping blood or white coat Jimmy Jacobs though, which is disappointing.
Aww.
Hunter isn't happy and also can't close curtains properly.
It's probably if the curtains aren't long enough.
And next up we had the Cruiserweight Championship as Tony Nese defended his title against Arya Daivari.
Can we just say how awesome this was, that this was on the main show?
Well, I was just about to say, of all the great Cruiserweight matches that have been sort of kick-off show fodder, this was the one that made the main card.
Yeah, but you know what? It was still good.
It was still good, but...
Oh, it wasn't like Ali Murphy or Murphy
Tozawa.
Nese or... Yeah. Like, it... But we've talked about for ages how much we love 205 Live. You know it, like, you know it's my favourite show.
I was happy to see it get the spotlight. I'm just disappointed in a way
that it was that one.
That it was this one. Like, I think for the past 12 months, I think every Cruiserweight title match that has been on quote-unquote pay-per-view, even though they've all been on the pre-show, has been better than this one.
Totally agree.
So it was just a little bit disappointing that this was the one that got the spotlight, but still good to see.
And Tony Nese is awesome.
Yeah. So... Daivari enters in a Merc. He slipped early in the match going for the Billy Goat's Curse. Nice landed a springboard moonsault for 2, and then Daivari countered the pump handle driver, and they battled to the outside, with Nice trading in his handstand off the apron, ending with a super kick with one that ended with a forearm instead. Back in, and Daivari hit the Iconoclasm for 2. Nice fought back though and hit a Sasuke special followed by the 450 for 2. Daivari fights back with a super kick and a frog splash before hitting his hammerlock lariat for a great near fall. Nice hits a top rope Hurricane Rana though, and the running Nice gets the win for him. Like I said, good but weak for a pay-per-view cruiserweight title match.
It was, but I think until this point we were comfortably able to say it was the best match on the card so far.
Yeah, I think it was either this or the women's match at this point.
I
They were probably quite similar, I would say.
I preferred this though. I enjoyed it. It wasn't Nice's best match. It wasn't the best cruiserweight title match, but that was largely I think because of Daivari. He's good but not great and lacks in.
I just find him bland, and he'd not be somebody I would use.
Yeah, like he lacks in major areas that affect him getting over. But like overall, I was happy with it, and it did what it did what I wanted it to do, which was just give Nice a defense for him to continue on, hopefully to only Lorcan.
So Hunter yells at Braun for attacking Sammy. Braun says he didn't. Hunter asks him to leave. Braun says, "Whatever, man." Riveting stuff here. And Braun looks like a geek as usual.
Yeah, because the monster among men's totally leave, and he goes, "Oh, fine." Just awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
And then we had the first of Becky's championship matches as she defended the Raw Women's title against Lacey Evans. Becky started off hot, but Lacey quickly took control. She then used her hanky to wipe her own armpit, and then her own face. Hygienic. She used it on Becky next, which saw Becky fire up and run wild. Becky hit the Bexploder, or if you might have called the Bexplex. Even when he even doesn't know the names of moves when they're like WWE trademarked names of moves.
Yeah.
Not
the
good.
Voice, literally the voice of this generation as well. God, this generation is screwed, isn't it?
Becky then hits a missile dropkick. Lacey fought back with an awkward-looking sliced bread stunner combo thing, followed by a knee for 2. Becky gets distracted by the ref, who is for some reason trying to get her away from Lacey. Lacey then hits an awful-looking chop block before cradling her. The ref refuses to count for unknown reasons, as Lacey has her pinned for about 5 seconds, and Becky transitions into the disarm her for the submission win. This was good and way better than expected before the horrendously booked finish, which once again made everyone involved look terrible.
Yeah, do we know if this was on purpose yet?
I believe so.
Ugh, just because I don't believe they referenced it on Monday Night Raw.
Right.
Oh, I haven't watched all of Raw yet, but I don't remember them referencing it. Corey may have, and I may have missed it because I'll have to rewatch before we record again. I thought this match was way better than I expected it to be. It was certainly not great,
no,
but it was
realistically,
decent.
I thought it was really good until Lacey nearly botched the sliced bread, which did sort of take us a little bit out of the match, and then things kind of fell apart a little bit from there, but were still okay until the absolutely vile finish.
Still the best match of Lacey Evans' career.
No, without doubt.
But that doesn't mean much.
Yeah.
But it was decent.
Mm. So we then had the SmackDown women's title match because Charlotte comes out immediately and goads Becky into having their match right now.
And apparently Becky has no choice in the matter whatsoever.
She goaded her, and Becky's the type of, like, it made sense for Becky's character as well that should go, however then.
Yeah.
You know. So Charlotte is absolutely phenomenal in her role, and I just say
she is awesome.
She came down with the most...
Is she in the
biggest
running?
Grin on her face, like Adam Cole level of grin.
Is she in the running for best heel this year?
I would say so.
Yeah, like I think she's been unbelievably good in her heel role so far this year.
And then she's sitting there and she's opening the ropes for Becky, like saying, "Come on, get in," and then she goes, "Nah, never mind," and she just gets in the ring anyway. She's phenomenal.
It was honestly, she's like Charlotte. Charlotte is one of the few who has immeasurably improved since NXT.
Yeah. They fight out onto the apron and Charlotte goes for natural selection, but Becky holds onto the ropes and Charlotte crashes to the floor. Becky crawls back in, but while the ref is checking on Charlotte, Lacey lays out Becky with the woman's right. When Charlotte gets back in, Becky cradles her and gets the 3 count, only the referee doesn't count the 3rd time for reasons I don't fully understand. Charlotte then hits a big boot and pins Becky. This was okay until the finish, which again sucked. I also think Becky losing here was a bit senseless. It doesn't hurt her per se because she had already fought on this evening. But they had an opportunity to really put her over by successfully defending both titles in one night, and they chose not to. Plus, the finish sucked.
Totally agree. Really bad finish, and they really missed an opportunity here with Becky. Like, it's not going to harm her, like you said. It's not going to make her less over, but it's not going to make her more over either.
Yeah.
Like we said, just because we watched this show together, just after we watched it, what did I say to you? I said, what would have happened if it was Austin?
Yeah.
Would they have ever done that to Austin?
No, and that's the thing that they're missing now. They don't have any stars.
Because they don't know how to build them anymore.
Yeah, but you've got somebody who's naturally really over with the hardcore fan base and is getting over with the casual fan base. You have a chance to put them over the top by making them look like an absolute superstar, and you choose not to do it. Like we said, it doesn't hurt her, but you are not giving yourself the opportunity to make that superstar. And you know what? Maybe Becky wouldn't have got any more over by retaining the title twice, and maybe it wouldn't have made her a superstar, but you've got to make those decisions to try and make these guys stars, because otherwise your TV ratings are going to stay in the toilet where they currently are.
Yeah, totally agree. And all they had to do, literally all they had to do, was have Becky defend them both once. Because the next time she defended them both, she could have lost one of them, and it wouldn't have mattered because she'd done that in that one night. You know, the whole like Jericho defeating two of them in one night. Like she could brag about that for ages. And that would have made something of her. It really would have.
And her losing, like we said, doesn't hurt her. But what I do think hurt her a little bit, and probably does hurt her overness, is how badly both these matches finished. Because you had the referee, for some reason, not counting in the Lacey match, which I think was deliberate. And then you had the obvious, not deliberate screw-up, unfortunately, by Charlotte in this one, where the referee counts 1, he counts 2, and she doesn't kick out, so he has to stop counting. And everybody stands there awkward for a second while Charlotte kicks out at about 3 3/4.
Yeah, it was strange.
It was not good.
It was a very clunky show. I think like that is the word for this show, clunky.
So post-match, Becky attacks Lacey, but Charlotte helps Lacey out and they gang up on Becky. Bayley makes a save only for Charlotte to turn the tables. Charlotte goes to leave, but hubris gets the better of her, and she goes for the spear on Bayley, only to eat the turnbuckle. She takes an age to decide to cash in, and for some reason, Charlotte never recovers. Bayley cashes in, hits a top rope elbow drop. Like, seriously, Charlotte must have been down for about 4 minutes total before that elbow drop.
Yeah.
And then Bayley pins her to win, and the crowd absolutely loves it.
Yeah, they did.
Hopefully, this springboards Bayley's kind of floundering career.
Fingers crossed, because I didn't like Charlotte winning, but I did then like Bayley cashing in. I do wonder whether it would have had a much bigger impact had she, like we predicted, had she cashed in on Becky and gone heel. I do wonder whether that would have had more of an impact on Bayley's overness in general.
But I genuinely thought that this crowd would hate her, because I think they've screwed her up so much that the crowd has turned on her a bit.
It's hard to cheer Bayley for some strange reason.
So I thought it would be easier to steer into the skid and have her cash in on Becky to turn heel.
Agreed.
But it really worked in front of this crowd, which didn't get excited for much, but they really got, and I know it's a cash in, but they really got excited for Bayley winning the title.
And it was a poor crowd.
Which was really cool. So hopefully it's a springboard for her.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So next up we had what was going to be Roman versus Elias, but Roman is walking backstage and Elias, sort of cartoon supervillain style, sneaks up on him and lays him out with his guitar. Elias then does an electric concert. It is one of his weaker ones, unfortunately.
Yeah, he don't ever do electric again. Yeah, because it highlights all of his mistakes.
He goes to leave, but Reigns is back and hits a Superman punch. The match begins. Roman hits a spear, and that's ball game. The concert was a bit of a letdown, but I like this use of Roman, and Elias is bulletproof, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. Like it did what it had to do. I did wonder whether Elias should have got a bit more, but you made a very good point in that it's not really Elias's role. He doesn't have Elias. You said Elias could lose every single match like this, and he'd still be over because of his act.
Yeah.
So it was fine, and Roman doing little but impactful stuff.
Yeah, when he's not got a big feud,
is exactly what Roman should be doing. Like they are starting to get it, and he is starting to get. He is starting to get over. It's going to take a lot more work, but he's starting to get over.
I kind of feel like they are making progress, but it's almost like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, because they keep doing good stuff with him, and then occasionally they'll do something stupid, which will hurt his overness slightly. So I do think they're getting better with Roman, but I still don't think they're making it work quite as well.
Yeah, but it's certainly better than it was, say, a year and a half ago.
Oh, without a doubt. So next up, we had Seth Rollins defending the Universal Championship against AJ Styles, and
Finally, a really good wrestling match.
oh my god, this was great. This was easily the best thing on the show. It was a slow burner combining that mixture of like 1980s NWA and mid-2000s ROH that AJ is just phenomenal at.
Yep.
And AJ teased a Styles clash from the apron to the outside, which frightened me, but Seth fought out only the sliding knee. Rollins hit a couple of tope suicidas and then hit a sling blade and followed that up with some nice looking Kawada kicks, but AJ countered a rain trigger with an Ushigoroshi. AJ went for the clash, but Seth fought into a pinfall attempt. They then traded pinfall attempts until Rollins transitioned one of his into a buckle bomb and followed up with a beautiful high fly floor for 2. AJ fights back and hits the rack bomb for 2, but Rollins cuts off the phenomenal forearm. He goes up top with AJ and hits the inverted superplex, followed by a less head droppy version of the reverse Bloody Sunday for 2. Seth hits a super kick to the midriff and goes for the stomp, but AJ counters into the calf killer, but Seth fights out. AJ hits the styling DDT for 2. They trade strikes until AJ misses the Pele. Seth hits a super kick and goes for the stomp again, but AJ countered into the Styles clash for an absolutely phenomenal near fall.
It was one of the absolutely coolest counters I've ever seen.
Still not quite as cool as his counter of the Phoenix Splash when Ibushi did it.
Still though, it's up there.
But it's up there.
It's up there, one of the best counters I've ever seen.
Mm. So AJ then looks for the phenomenal forearm, but Rollins catches him and transitions into the rain trigger. He then hits a super kick and the stomp for the pin and the win. This was an absolute barn burner, and if the feud was lackluster, the match certainly wasn't. Great stuff.
Very much agree. I thought this was a great match. Easily the best match on the show up to this point, and by the end. It, like I said, it mixed those styles really well. They both had clear chemistry together, and I would like to see more moving forward, but from what we saw on Monday Night Raw, I'm not 100% convinced that's happening. I think AJ is transitioning into a feud with a charisma vacuum, shall we say.
Yes, I would certainly agree with that.
Deep joy.
Deep six.
No deep joy. Well, actually, no, there is no joy.
No
joy. Anti-joy. But yeah, and it was interesting after the match as well.
Yeah,
because
post-match,
you got that, yeah.
AJ offers his hand and Rollins cautiously accepts.
Yeah, and it was... Rollins felt much more heelish in terms of his facial expressions.
What the bit for me that made him feel heelish is when AJ offered the hand, Rollins raised the title belt in his face.
Yeah, and he got boost for it.
Yeah,
because it was a little bit like... I get what they were going for.
Rollins' promo, and again, we'll cover Raw properly later in the week, but Rollins' promo on Raw I thought was absolutely fantastic and was pure babyface. So
Rollins is awesome.
Yeah.
I just wait and we'll cover what happens later, but I'm just waiting for them to ruin Rollins' title reign now.
Me too. Lucha House Party come out for a 6-man tag, but Lars Sullivan comes out and murders them. This was fine. Lars was busted open during this, which made for a nice visual as he was hitting the Liger Bomb.
This happened. It was fine. It reminds me very much of exactly what they did with Lesnar when Lesnar first debuted, in that they had him murder the Hardy Boys repeatedly. It had more impact when it was the Hardy Boys, though, because the Hardy Boys were
over.
Legitimately something.
Yeah.
Looking back, did that not damage the Hardy Boys? Or did it just make Brock look awesome?
I think the Hardy Boys, well, it was very much at a time where tag teams could be good, but you put them into singles situations, or you put them in with a singles guy, and
they faced him 2-on-1 though at a pay-per-view.
I can't.
Or 2-on-2, but one of the two was Heyman. And Brock basically beat them. I think.
I can't even remember that.
I think on his own. But he actually. We'll come back to that.
You may be right. There was a time period where I was kind of me sort of attention span to WWE was starting to wane a little bit.
It was mid to late 01. It was before Vengeance.
Oh, was it in 01, was it? I didn't think Lesnar debuted in 01. You're not thinking of 02.
Yes, I am. It was after. Yes, I am thinking of 02. Of course I'm thinking of 02.
So next up we had Kofi versus Kevin Owens for the WWE Championship. Kofi came out smiling and throwing pancakes for this grudge match where his opponent has turned on him and tried to maim his best friend, but whatever.
Logic.
Kofi started hot, but a super kick turned the tables and Owens worked a really nice heat segment. He really got the fans behind Kofi by talking trash to the crowd and really riling them up. He sent Kofi to the floor and hit a frog splash from the apron. Kofi fought back, but KO cut off the boom drop and locked on a Boston Crab. Kofi got the ropes and they fought on the apron until Kofi hit a sixth sounding double stomp on the apron. Kofi tried some kind of twisting tornado from the top to the outside, but he hit a super kick. They traded counters in the ring and Kofi hit the SOS for 2. He set up for Trouble in Paradise, but Owens countered into another crab. Kofi got the ropes and fought back, showing some great intensity. Owens ended up hitting the pop-up powerbomb though for 2. Kofi countered the stunner and hit Trouble in Paradise, but the momentum sent Owens to the floor. Kofi got him back in, but then he hit a stunner which got a really nice near fall. KO went for the swanton, but only hit the knees, and then Kofi hit Trouble in Paradise for the win. This was not amazing, but it was very, very good. And despite the pancake throwing at the start, Kofi showed some great intensity during the match.
Yeah, I'm very much in agreement with you. I didn't like the entrance. Like, Kofi should have come out on fire and gone straight for Owens. Doesn't need to be jokey. Like, it wasn't
which he kind of did once the bell rang. But
yeah,
it was
exactly.
jokey down to the ring, yeah.
Yeah, the match itself I enjoyed. I didn't love it, but I did really enjoy it. And I feel like Kofi's reign is starting to get a little bit of momentum now.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but a little bit of momentum. He does need a hotter feud coming up, though.
So, next up, we had the main event, which was the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. This was balls to the wall from the start, as Orton just kept back suplexing people on the announce desk, which was fun.
Troll Orton was awesome.
Yeah. Corbin and McIntyre teamed up and beat people down for a while, but Orton returned and cut them off. He went for an RKO on Corbin, who pushed him into a Claymore from Drew. Balor finally remembered how to properly hit a sling blade and hit a lovely one. Andrade had clearly been to Kevin Steen's school of building structures as he bridged one of the ladders. He climbed though and Balor followed. They fought at the top and then Andrade hit the sunset flip bomb off the top of the ladder onto the ladder bridge, which looked awful for Balor.
I was worried.
As he bounced around like a pinball and hit the ladder about 6 times. It was disgusting.
And then landed on top of it as well.
Yeah. So Ali then hit a poison rana on Ricochet. He and Andrade then fought and eventually fought on 2 ladders next to each other before Ali hit a lovely Spanish fly on Andrade off the ladders.
Beautiful.
Ali and Drew fought on the outside before Corbin hit a vicious chokeslam on Ali through the announce table. It was easily the best thing Corbin's ever done. It just looked amazing.
It did.
He then chokeslams Finn onto a ladder. McIntyre comes back soon after Corbin turned on him though and wipes Corbin out with a Claymore. Drew then suplexes Balor onto another ladder. Balor is taking a beating in this match.
He was a champ, wasn't he?
McIntyre hits the reverse Alabama slam on Andrade onto Finn, who is still on the ladder. Drew then hip tosses Ricochet about 50 million miles into the air from the ring to the outside through a ladder bridge between the apron and the announce table. That didn't look fun either.
No.
Drew climbs the ladder, but Orton pulls him off into an RKO. Ali and Corbin then climb and Ali gets the better of him and looks set to win to my great excitement, but sadly Brock Lesnar's music hits.
Doom, doom, doo, doo, doo.
For some reason, Ali is now incapable of unclipping the briefcase.
And just stands there gormlessly.
So stupid.
They
Just made him look like such an idiot.
As if like, what do I do now?
I've heard music, I must stop what I'm doing and look until Brock Lesnar runs down to the ring, gets into the ring, and then
walks up the ladder,
walks to the ladder, pushes said ladder over, and then I'm like, I could have won that match.
Damn.
Yeah, what an idiot.
That went wrong.
Yeah.
If I had my time again.
So, like we said, Brock pushes the ladder over. He then climbs the ladder and wins. Oy vey.
Deja vu much.
Yeah, this was a great ladder match with a rubbish finish.
Yeah, a really rubbish finish. Like, if they're going to have Brock back in the title picture, like, did Brock seriously need the Money in the Bank
Brock
ladder?
did not need this.
The Money in the Bank contract, sorry. Like, come on. Like, just awful. Just awful. And, like, a rubbish way to end the pay-per-view. It got heat from the crowd and not in a good way. And so another perfect example of how they really lack any new ideas. And I've got a really horrible feeling that Brock is going to cash it in at the Saudi show for a match with Seth. And I've got a really horrible feeling that Brock is going to win.
Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
Just sucks. Like, we've seen Brock now with the title so many times. Can you please move him away from the title picture? Because every single time it is awful.
When he's there.
Rant over.
It's weird, like the wrestling on this show was for the most part very, very good, but I still came away feeling like it was a poor pay-per-view because of the almost criminally bad booking.
This is literally their problem though, like we always say. They've got the greatest roster they've ever had and they've got no idea what to do with it. It's like having all the greatest toys in the world and having no idea how to play with them. That's
essentially Vince.
Yeah, or having the most amazing collection of paintings in the world and just leaving them stuck down in your basement where no one can see them.
So, time for the Money in the Bank predictions review. So, we both got some right, we both got some wrong.
Almost like we can't put ourselves in the head of Vince McMahon.
We both went for Drew in the men's ladder match, which we got wrong. We both went for Becky in the SmackDown Women's title match, which we both got wrong. We both went for The Miz in the cage match, which we both got wrong. And we both went for Joe in the US title match, which we both got wrong.
I will state, though, that if things had gone how we booked them, it would have been a better wrestling show.
No way. Really?
Yeah, like...
I'm shocked.
I know.
It's almost like we wouldn't have done stupid things. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Crazy talk.
Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
So I predicted the Usos to win the match against Daniel Bryan and Rowan. You went with Bryan and Rowan, and the Usos did win. So at that point, I was one up in the predictions. But then you came back during the women's Money in the Bank match to tie it up because you went with Bayley and I went with Ember Moon. So you were right. So we got to the end of the pay-per-view, and technically this was a draw. But I'm going to be very, very sportsmanlike here and award you the point because Bayley did cash in exactly how you predicted.
Oh, good point.
So I feel it's only fair that you take the point for this predictions show.
I'm going to be extremely magnanimous and agree that I think that's a totally fair decision, and I'm gonna happily receive that point and take it.
Don't make me take the point back off you by being cocky.
I'm not gonna gloat or be cocky. I'm gonna be accepting and gracious. So thank you.
Shut up. 5-5.
Yeah.
That's what we're at now in the pay-per-view predictions.
What's the next
pay-per-view? The next one we're going to be predicting on the next podcast because it's double or nothing. So that's our next predictions game. So it's coming quickly. So get your head on.
Do we have to do double or nothing for that one?
No, we don't.
Double or nothing predictions.
What? So you can either double your point or you end up with zero.
You can either get your opponent's points or lose all of yours.
So exactly what I've just said.
Yeah, basically, yes. Yeah, words. Similar words.
So the little bonus thing we've got for this week's final segment is our review of War Games from WrestleWar 92. So if anybody who doesn't know, this was Sting's squadron, comprising of Barry Windham, The Natural, Dustin Rhodes, Nikita Koloff, Ricky Steamboat, and Sting, against the Dangerous Alliance with Paulie Dangerously and Medusa at ringside, comprising of Arn Anderson, Beautiful Bobby Eaton, Larry Sabisco, Rick Rude, and Stunning Steve Austin.
Yeah, what happened to that guy?
I don't know. I feel like he should have been so much bigger. He was always technically crisp.
Yeah, he never got hot. He was always stone cold.
Yeah, something like that. That was such a bad show.
Puns for life.
So JR and Jesse Ventura are our commentary team. And by the way, I watched this just before we watched Money in the Bank. And it put in perspective how bad modern day commentary is because JR and Jesse are so good in this match.
Well, JR was the greatest of all time in this was one of his great periods as well. Because like JR, people forget like JR wasn't always perfect. He wasn't always great. He did have peaks and troughs, but his troughs were like everyone else's peaks. This was one of his peaks.
So the Dangerous Alliance huddle before we start as Paulie dangerously plays his best Vince Lombardi with an actual game plan.
It was genius.
He had an actual game plan at ringside and he's going like, well, if we do this, then you start first. And then later on we cut back to him and he's going, if they get the 2-on-1 advantage, if we can take them to this corner and we can just survive for the 2 minutes and then you can come in here and we can take over again. So,
managing.
He even had a plan for if they lost the coin toss and were a man down.
What an advocate.
So Barry Windham and Stunning Steve Austin start us off. They brawl heavy early. I cannot overstate, as I said, how good Ventura and JR are on commentary. The crowd pops huge when Windham just hits a DDT on Austin, which was really awesome. We see a couple of creative spots as Austin hits a flying clothesline from one ring to the other and attempts to hang from the cage to attack Windham, but ends up landing face first as Windham reverses it. Windham busts Austin open just before the heels win the coin toss, and Rick Rude is next in. Austin and Rude work over Windham, but then Steamboat enters. The crowd goes absolutely nuts as Steamboat lays out both Austin and Rude with consecutive DDTs. How long did that pop last for?
At least a minute.
It was awesome. Steamboat was so over.
Yeah, they were all over though.
Anderson is next in and lays out Steamboat with a picture-perfect spinebuster. Like, if you could look up spinebuster in the dictionary and it had a moving image, it would be this image.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it was pin perfect. It was absolutely beautiful.
You know, that literally was the classic Arn Anderson spinebuster. It was just perfect.
And he and Rick Rude lock on a double Boston Crab on Steamboat, which JR said he'd never seen before. And I don't genuinely think I've ever seen it before, where they were just, both of them had one leg. So it was almost like they were both doing a half crab at the same time on Steamboat. It was a really cool spot.
Yeah, it was great.
Rude then lays out Steamboat with the pile driver before Dustin Rhodes evens up the numbers. Rhodes runs wild, including a bionic elbow, which got a nice pop from the crowd.
Dustin was awesome as well.
He really was good in this match.
Really was good. You could see how much potential he had.
Yeah.
Just never got
Fulfilled
over
it.
like he needed to. Yeah.
Zabisco is in next, but is met immediately by Dustin as Medusa climbs to the top of the cage. She hands Dangerously's phone through the cage to Arn, who starts attacking people with it. Sting forces her into retreat by climbing to the top himself. And then Sting himself is in next as all the babyfaces are in trouble and the crowd absolutely loves Sting. He gorilla presses Rude repeatedly into the cage roof, which was a cool spot I'd never seen before. Bobby Eaton is the final entrant for the Alliance. Nikita then enters for the babyfaces as the match beyond officially begins. Nikita runs wild and helps Sting up and then takes a bullet for him as the old team is officially on the same page. They high five and the crowd loses their minds.
It was one of those old-fashioned Southern pops as well as where it's sort of like it sounds like a raw.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
It was great. And you know what? Actually, that was probably my favourite moment of the match.
Yeah, mine too.
It's been about 6 or 7 years since I've seen this match. It's my favourite War Games match, which is why I suggested when I saw it was around this time that we review it for this episode. But it's about 6 or 7 years since I've actually seen the match, so I'd forgotten some of the spots and I'd forgotten how loud specifically the reaction to Sting and Nikita high-fiving was. So Sting gets the Scorpion Deathlock on Arn, but Bobby makes a save. Rick Rude has managed to detach the top rope in one of the rings. Ventura continually maintains that Bobby Eaton is trying to repair the ring, which is absolutely great commentary. But he grabs the turnbuckle and gives it to Zabisco, but when he swings at Sting, Sting ducks and Larry hits Bobby Eaton in the shoulder. Sting then takes out Larry and locks on an armbar variant on Eaton, who submits. Post-match, the Alliance argue with the fingers being pointed at Larry, who I believe in storyline had screwed up a few times prior to this match as well.
And was on his way to being kicked out of the Alliance.
On his way to being kicked out. But this was absolutely phenomenal. Like I said, this may be my all-time favourite, and I absolutely love War Games as a concept, so for this to be my favourite definitely puts it over as a great match. Absolutely perfection.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. It's been a long time since I've watched it. Like, I really, really, really enjoyed it. I thought Austin was just awesome. You could see how before the injuries and everything like that, how great a wrestler Stone Cold was. He was great after the injuries, but a very different wrestler.
Yeah, he had to change his style, didn't he?
You could see the promise in Dustin as well. He was crazy over. Loads of fire for a young kid as well. Sting was Sting.
Steamboat was fantastic.
Yeah, Arn was still on.
Yeah.
Like, you could see he hadn't got to the point where he was no longer on. He was still great, still doing all the classic moves. There was loads of great heel work as well. It was brilliant, like brilliant, and I loved it. I was gripped throughout, which for a War Games is quite funny because, like, you know, how the match concept works. You know, usually because you can't, until everyone's in the ring, there can't be a fall. So usually the early parts of the match are kind of like a bit not pointless, but you don't need to focus on them as much because really what happens later is what's important. I was gripped throughout, and I thought it was brilliant and easily the best War Games match I've seen.
Yeah, totally agree. And the one thing for me that stood out watching this, apart from the commentary, was didn't everybody in this match feel like a star?
And feel important.
That's what I mean.
Imagine that in wrestling.
There was, like, even Nikita. Nikita felt huge in this. Like, everybody came across as their own individual person who was an absolute superstar and somebody you couldn't imagine. Like, you know, when you're a kid and you put, like, footballers on pedestals and wrestlers on pedestals and they're like these mythical beings that you can't actually imagine what it would be like to see one in real life or anything like that.
Yeah.
So if I walked down the street now and bumped into, like, a pro wrestler that works for WWE, I wouldn't have that feeling. And yes, part of it is I'm not 6 anymore, but part of it's also because they don't make superstars.
And there's Twitter, so like they're readily available all over the place.
They just have pro wrestlers though. Sorry, Vince. They just have sports entertainers.
Superstars.
You know, whereas these guys were absolute top-level stars,
Yeah.
dripping in star power, and I thought this was absolutely fantastic.
And also, when I was watching it, I just couldn't help but think, like, how I know it sucked by the end, and it was like a toilet of a promotion, but oh god, don't you miss WCW?
I do. But you know what?
'Cause
Hopefully AEW can take its place.
Yeah, because like I think we're both the same in that. Yeah, we watch WWE, but in terms of how we like our styles of what we like wrestling to be, we're both much more of the old WCW, NWA style.
That's
than
like
WWE.
that's probably my favorite style. If I'm thinking of like my favorite different styles over the years, I'd say mid '80s sort of Jim Crockett NWA style stuff, then mid 2000s ROH, and then modern day New Japan.
Yeah.
In that order for me. And I know you'd be slightly different, but we both have very similar
tastes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is absolutely great, and hopefully AEW can take on that mantra that NWA, WCW had with a more of a sports orientated feel.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that you guys want us to review, like moving forward, is there anything that you think, God, like I wish they'd talk about that, because like it's one of my favourite matches, but they never really mention it. Like in the comments or on our Twitter, like let us know. We will happily sit and watch wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we love a good retro review as well, so we'll try and keep throwing these out there when we get the chance. Obviously, we can't do them week by week because there's too much to cover on the usual shows, but when we've got a pay-per-view and cover it relatively quickly, it's nice to have something at the end to run through. So
yeah, and we always like them to be themed as well, don't we?
We do. So we'll try and keep it similar time of year or similar type of show or whatever. So, but hit us up, let us know if there is anything like that. So before we get out of here, Jonathan, is there anything you'd want to add?
No, not for me.
Sorry, we're out of time. We'll see you on Friday on the Two Man Booth.